Yes, lads, what is happening? Yeah, look, you are right. I'm a little bit early tonight. I was like 5 minutes early. It's because I was so early and getting off last night. Jesus, that sounded wrong. Um, started off well. See, because we kind of finished a run the way we kind of finished last night, where we completed it and there wasn't that much time left to really do a full proper next one. Thought start a wee bit earlier and see if we can finish this game tonight, because I'm a good butt through it, but I think there's a good chunk of the game left to go. But McKinn's, welcome in. Hook, welcome in. Happy Irish, welcome in. Thank you very much for checking in. Wait, I thought you finished Transformers last week. No, I did not. I finished a bottle of wine whilst playing Transformers and we got the Starscream, but no, I didn't finish it. The hope is I finish it tonight, and then I can move on to a new game on Saturday, but here. What do you do in your own time? Oh, my bad. Oh, Jesus, he doesn't even pay attention. Doesn't even fucking love me. I actually made some really good clips from last night, though, because there's bits where I was going through sections, and because there was folks asking questions in chat. Flamash, what's happening? It's so is his favourite game, even in what is happening. Because there's people asking questions, I was kind of explaining as I was doing it, and it became actually really good TikToks, where it's very informative, you know, of the strats and the skips at that point as well, which is quite good. So
at Backlash?
Backlash.
It's covering me fucking face.
At Backlash.
Here, I'm over here. I'll show you.
Backlash.
Can't believe you doubled the cost of the best routine.
Backlash.
I kind of looked and it was all...
Backlash.
It's a long routine, and I was only doing like 500 channel points for it. And I was like, no, that needs to be longer. There's ones of less length that cost more. And I was like, no.
Backlash.
It's a good old long one, that one. You get your money. Get your money. Even though it's not real money and it's all just fake coins. It's grand. Don't worry about it. So, going to play some more Transformers Devastation. I like the idea of playing delisted games. I don't know if that's something I'm going to lean into a little bit more. What is this? No, it's just somebody gone live and I didn't know who it was. I don't know if I should lean into that a wee bit more and getting like physical copies of games which you can't get anymore, because there seems to be people coming on and people responding online going, oh, what game's that? Oh, I've never seen that. And I'm like, oh, you know, it's a bit of a gem. It's a bit of a classic. Nobody's ever told you it's a good or long one. They have not, Flamash. They have not told me that. And, you know, it made me sad. They keep saying it's a short, quick one. And it just destroys my confidence. But, we're going to see if we can finish this up tonight. Because I did the thing I'd normally do where I go on and I say, without spoilers, how long they have left. And I think I'm about like 60% of the way through. But then again, I can feel the game ramping up and getting a bit more difficult as well, so that could also be a thing, could be a skill issue too, that slows me down. But we'll see anyway. I'm going to jump on it anyway. I did a lot of nattering at the start of the stream last night. I did a lot of nattering. And... oh, we were picking. We kind of settled on Sideswipe, haven't we?
Let's go. What are we waiting for? Follow me.
I do like Sideswipe. Getting off clip by Happy Irishman. Yes! Thank you. I did the same to Ian earlier as well. He said something very sus, so I clipped it.
What's wrong with it?
We were unable to repair the leak before Starscream took it.
Sorry, the way my favourite Decepticon.
Imminent.
Oh, what's the buttons?
Be
I forget.
repaired.
I'll figure it out.
Processing Teletran Alpha.
The Proustar's plasma core was forged in the plasma energy chambers on Cybertron. Only at a plasma energy interface on Cybertron can it be repaired.
Starscream, you must bring it to the tower immediately. The core is unstable.
Hope they caught it well. Editing on the phone can be dodgy. It can do. But you can still go on and edit it after the fact as well.
Starscream is taking the plasma core back to the city. We
Oh,
have
that
no
was the wrong
time
button.
to waste.
Right, so where am I going? Back on the bridge, am I? Oh, we fought Blitzwing. Oh, fuck. Right, okay. Elite Seeker. He doesn't have a name. John Elite.
Never stood a chance.
Yeah, no, it's all coming back to me now. I'm like Celine Dion all over again. Where are you? Yeah, creep.
Here's my retort.
Here is my retort.
Decepticons approaching from the city.
Oh, he's dead. I wonder if I have to fight these guys or do I just keep going? Fuck it, we'll go for it. Oh fuck. Get me arse now, maybe look.
Do it, lady.
Do it, lady. Sierra, what is happening? Did he double the Cleo treats? I did not. I did not.
How
It was
are
the
you
back.
still alive?
11 months, Sierra. Thank you so much for that. It was the Backlash one. I increased the price of it, mostly because it's a very, very long clip. Cleo's treats is the same price. So let's see if I can grab some more health here before doing anything. Oh, right, okay. There we go, full health. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, and it was being abused, was it? Oh, so Sierra agrees. She agrees the Flamash was the problem. Oh, you could just knock him off the bridge, there we go. Oh, it can also knock me off the bridge. That's a definite downside. Away with you. Oh, he can transform on that plane. Probably no point knocking him off.
Here's my retort.
Oh, big fella. Shit. Ah. Bastard. Right, okay. Doing a decent amount of damage on him, thankfully. Oh, fuck. Nope. I'm fucked. Stunned. Nah. You're hurting me. It was appropriate as a giant walking robot who's a car destroyed the environment. This is also true. Adios, motherfucker. Yars can jump now. I'm doing a lot better this time around. Suckers! It sounds like Hook, doesn't it? Oh, fuck. Stop it! Right, he is fucking me up. Oh, thankfully I got the other wee bastard as well. Where was that? We got him now! Except he's got us. But apart from him getting us, we've got him. Go. I've been thinking quite a bit as well about my streamer identity. And it was, there was a kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say a conference, but there was kind of a Q&A Discord meeting the other night. And it was all about, you know, your brand and your, what you think your stream kind of is. And I think I've been too, what's the word? I've been too broad and, you know, kind of wanting to play what I want and just being very much too variety. And probably would be interested to see what other people think my, what impression they get off my own stream. You know, do you see me as a horror guy? Just a really, really bad gamer? overlay, dude. You know, because I don't really know, because I don't know my own identity. And I think it's because I've gone through periods where I've changed too much too often. I think that needs to stop as well, where I just need to just stick with design, and that's what I'm going for. I like the way my games are set. I like the, you know, the kind of faded and blurred background. I don't think it's much thing too broad with variety streamers. Yeah, that is true. But I don't know if I should niche down and stop maybe with the whole variety side of it.
To break through the rubble, detonate the aerial mines in front of it.
Oh, them poor lads were standing behind the mines. We didn't even see them. Can I just ignore them? Will it stop me if I try and keep going? Maybe not. Oh, maybe I'll have to fight them all. Oh, I'll definitely have to fight someone at least. If I can, like, get them all together, I can maybe do some damage with all three of them. That'd be an idea. Oh, fuck, right, go. Is there health? That looks like health. Looks very healthy orientated, doesn't it? Sorry, I mustn't chat here. My worry is, I tend to agree, my worry is that you mean to get stuck on what you could play, and you might not enjoy it as much. Yeah, that's also the other thing as well. I do enjoy the Resident Evil games, and I do like horror. That would be kind of where I would go to lean towards. But I also like finding old classics and things that a lot of people have kind of missed along the way. When I dedicate something specific, and then you stick the genre through and end up in the variety games. Yeah, that's also a way to do it. Can I? Are there any items I can take? Any help? Oh, there's health kits. Yes. Oh, fell down the hole. Did that respawn all of them? I don't think it did all of them. I think it just one. Never stood a chance. Get him because he's low on health. Yes, that's him down. It's getting the timings down on them. Here is my retort. But for me, I'd lose my mind. I'd want something to play endlessly, like WoW or Diablo. Do one night a week of that. Right, okay, yeah, that's true. Like, hey, Burton, yeah. I think Burton set himself a challenge, though. There was, at the very start, it was 365 days in a row he wanted to stream. And he wanted to teach himself Ocarina of Time glitches. Which was pretty cool. And it was really cool to watch. Doing the bonus streams. Yeah, I need to start doing that. I need to book some time off work, maybe one day a month, and do like a daytime stream. Because I do definitely see the benefit of those. My energy is a bit different whenever I'm doing those. Not that I don't have high energy, but it's different during the day, I think. And I do enjoy them. And the last couple of times I did it, I picked something that I wouldn't normally play, and then that has become a staple of the stream. So the last time, it was a Resident Evil. It was RE2, I think, was my first one, and that became one of my most treasured games. There's definitely something to ponder, something to think about. Is that health? Is that health? Is that health? It's green, so it should be health. Stop driving right up! Suckers! I love my day streams. Yours are class when you're done. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, I had a lot of fun with it. No, I still can't get through there. We'll have to get this guy. Yeah, he's dead. I must say Friday mornings, they were great. You did Sunday mornings for a while as well, didn't you? That's where you met a lot of your Australian buddies. There's a Starscream dragging a giant ball. Well, we're all fucked now.
Get me, Motormaster.
Ooh, Stunticons.
I need coordinates on Starscream.
It's just been pondered. I kind of took notes and I was going through it, and there were some really, really good points and stuff. I was just like, you know what, that's interesting. That's something good to ponder about. Right in Sunday, my Tuesday night, good times. Maybe in the future, kid. Yeah, when Teddy gets a bit older as well, and I've noticed as my kids have gotten older, they just don't spend. They're not as dependent on me. I think's a better word. Not that they don't want to spend as much time with me. I don't know where I'm supposed to be going. Oh, am I just him? Right, okay. Ah, sure, it's himself. Motormaster. I did enjoy the cartoons of this whenever they were coming up with new characters and the reason for the characters. And the Stunticons are a stupid one. They're like, the Autobots are too quick on the roads, so we can't catch them when we're in jet form. Let's make giant trucks and race cars. Vroom vroom. Then the Autobots brought out the aerial bots just to do the exact same thing, but backwards. Where did they go? Where the fuck did they go? Oh, he's down there. Sir, what are you doing?
Never stood a chance.
What's this? I think there's no harm in having a game that you can come back to a lot. Yeah, I think so. The R2C ones for you. You do them every week. Stop for a bit and come back to that. It's a bit of consistency. Yeah, I enjoy the R2 speed runs. See, I was thinking about it, and see when you think of the likes of Ian is RPGs. You know, you think Final Fantasy RPGs and stuff with him. And I like the fact that you know what you're getting into when you watch an Ian stream. So I think over the next couple of weeks I'm going to look at my branding a while and try and figure out what way I want my stream to look. One thing I always really struggled with as well, and I don't know if the rest of you have had this, but do you ever get really bad guilt of not being able to call into everybody's stream? I get this an awful lot, where I'm sitting there nights and all the cool people have gone live and you're like, oh shit, I can't call into everybody's stream, and I try as much as I can, even though I know my view isn't going to count for them all. But Jesus, it's heart-wrenching sometimes, because you're just like, oh, I want to call in, I want to say hello to all the cool peoples. Where did he go now? We're just going to blast him with this one, I think. And I've even sent Flimosh recording once of my audio, and it was just, all you could hear was just voices and me trying to keep up with like 5 different chats at the one time. Just so I could call in and chat, and that's where my burnout, I think, came from. Anytime I've really proper burnt out on Twitch, it's been because I've been trying to do that too much. And I think recently it's been kind of more of, I'm doing a disservice to some of the people I am, engaging in chat and stuff with, because I'm not paying full attention. Yeah, Ian specifically, think Final Fantasy, and he's got his branding down. Yeah, you know what you're getting into with mainstream. He's set times every week, and that man, knows what he's doing. Oh, I got an achievement. Woohoo! Cannot play in lower. It's because the jet fighter Decepticons couldn't fly permission in their city flight paths. There we go. There we go. Now we know. Now we know. 100% viewers know what they expect when they tune in. I love the speedruns too. Great watch, I find. Yeah, I enjoy doing them. I enjoy doing them because I worried that I would get very stressed with them, but I haven't been. I've been just enjoying the vibe of it. I get that a lot too. They have been tempted to go back to it. They have been tempted to go back to it, but I haven't been asked to learn it again. All the ones I follow stream during the day while I work, so it's usually on calls and stuff. Yeah, during the day isn't too bad. There's not as many of you kind of our community that would stream during the day. It's in the evenings everybody comes live. Yeah, the guilt gets me a lot. I feel so bad about folks or why could be. I know, and that's the thing. And you have so many amazing folks that call into your stream, and you want to tune into everybody else's then when they go live. And I was giving him grief about it earlier, but Sammy Dabby Doo streams at like 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's no chance I'll be able to get up for it. And then I see the notification when I get up. I'm like, right, I'm going to go down to my computer and go switch it on, go tune in the Sammy, and he's gone by that stage. And you're like, no. But you can't have room. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You have to switch and mute them as you flick between. Flicking, oil hook here, flicking his beam. Yeah, I can't keep up with more than 2 usually. If I'm on a different tab, I'll lower the volume 1%. Yeah, I can never get into this now, the way he does it with the daytime, as I jump on it immediately. Yeah, true. But I'm glad you folks are enjoying the speedruns, because I'm not great at them yet, but I'm liking the learning. Motormaster. Constructicon. Stunticon. Merge to Menosaur. Oh, yeah, that's what I find. Although once you tab more than 3 up, it's a lottery he gives it. Yeah, that's also true. I really enjoy the speedruns. Oh, thank you, folks. Now, to be fair, it wasn't even my idea. It was Mike kind of put it in my head. And I was looking at all them doing Final Fantasy VIII, and I thought, I love Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII is my jam, but they all do it, and the fear is, what if I don't enjoy playing the game normally anymore if I do a speedrun of it? And Final Fantasy VIII does have that fear because it's so easy to break the junction system. I need to heal up a little bit. Play what you want. Not everyone who streams makes it a whole big deal. That is also true. Yeah, case in point, don't that, because that's the thing. You eventually get the stage where it's your personality, regardless of the game, that brings people in. Unfortunately, I picked 2 and stuck with them because I get overwhelmed and more than that. Yeah, and that is also 100% fair. You need to watch more streams for the streamers, though. The game usually doesn't matter. 100%. I actually really get that. There is times, though, depending on the game, I can really vibe with the game and enjoy the music of the game and you know what's happening. Games sometimes were real safe for the co-person. Yeah, there's loads of people where I found them because of the game and then stuck with them because they're awesome. Plays everything and everything. People are there for him. Nobody goes in for the gameplay. Yeah. Now I have never actually caught any streams. I've just seen clips of him online, but I know who you're on about. He looks like the Scottish Hook. Yeah, he had his own phone for his personality, but brought people on these streams. Yeah, it keeps him. People call me Lummy. Oh yes, definitely. Sometimes the game brings me in too, but more than that, it's a streamer. Yeah. But how the fuck am I meant to know that? Just look at him. Since when did Motormaster start creating water? What the fuck's this bullshit?
Hey, watch the face!
Oh, fuck. Right, okay. I love how unique the boss fights are in this. I was nowhere near me to dodge that. That made no sense. But we'll just go with it. We'll vibe with it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We'll let it go. We'll be like Elsa and we'll let it motherfucking go. Oh, we repair kit there. Take that, Motor Master. Oh, he was charging for me too. Playing some chicken or wait. Actually, I moved out of the way first. He technically won that fight. But then again, he's a massive truck, so was I ever going to win it? Felt like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Oh, fuck. He's got me. Oh, that was close. That was close. I find I get burnt out more when I get caught up in something to help growth instead of doing what I want. Yeah, no, 100%, I get it. Same train? Wait, welcome in. That is also very true. Like, I've been doing clips on YouTube, and I was running out and getting stressed, and then trying to find time to edit them. You stop, and you're much happier. Yeah.
Your sensors should change color if you're pointing in the right direction.
Don't you talk to me about pointing in the right direction. No, I get that. I found, though, it's never necessarily the streaming or the game that has burnt me out. It has always been trying to tune in to too many streams. That's what gets me, and then I'm doing that in my off nights, and then it just means it's affecting my streaming nights then, and I'm just exhausted.
You are moving away from the core. Please check the device's readings again.
Well, how am I... Oh, that way? Right. I'm going this way. I was going the wrong way. You are moving away from the core. Please check the device's readings. It's not here. Akira, what's happening? Been here quietly watching. Hope all is well. It is. See, that's a serious trap. What? Oh, fuck. I'm getting shot. I'm getting shot! You should pick what you want within reason. That will have a decent probability of doing okay. Yeah, true. The way I look at it, how many streamers who I watch have found through YouTube clips in the past year and a half? The answer was 0. No, I do find quite a few streamers, quite a few people through YouTube and TikTok. Bloody shattered, no sleep last night. The heat getting you bad, man. It is toasty. No, it's not necessarily sunny here, but it is toast my ghost. You know, I'm going this way. Fuck it. The other way doesn't seem feasible. So if I disappear, I passed out. Akira, hydrate, brother. Try not to die. That is my goal in life, to not die, and I think we all should be the same. It doesn't look like there's an off-ramp here, though. Just take him in a look at it. Well, that was just some bullshit. This is going to take me back out to where I was, you son of a bitch. Fuck. Still 31 at the moment. You are getting it tight. We are... I think we were just low 20s today. It wasn't too bad. Alright. We were low 20s today, so it wasn't too bad. And it's mid 20s, I think, at the weekend. So it is not awful. Not great, but not awful. There's music as if I'm fighting somebody, but I can't see anybody, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Doing what I do. Your ma is moving away from the core. That's all I'm going to say, brother. You know what, you're probably right. I think I'm moving away from the core. I should have went where the giant fucking lasers are. What is these brothers all about? I'm going towards you. How am I moving away from the core? Fuck off! We're grand! Moving away from the core. Is that it?
I see it under the rubble.
Oh, it's under the rubble. It's fine. It's fine. My car's floating in midair, but it'll be fine.
The crack in that casing is getting bigger.
Well, haven't been going to the gym, and I've been eating lots of carbs, so the crack is getting bigger.
We better make time. Plasma energy is unpredictable. It could explode, cause gravitational rifts, warp a wormhole into existence.
Open the case and patch the core. We will hold off any foes.
Now, the problem I had there is the pose indicated that Wheeljack was also going to be included in that fight because he turned around in a dramatic way and we stood like cool motherfuckers. But then Wheeljack turned around, isn't actually going to be there, so it's just bullshit. Ooh, Goldie boys. Oh, everybody's fighting. Teamwork. Go team. I'm leaking all over. Yes. But a fault for the boys. There is literally nobody beside you, Wheeljack. You're chatting shit. Okay, that time they were on them. They must have known what they were doing with that line. I'm leaking all over you, dirty, dirty son of a gun. Ah, Secticons. Wheeljack, he wasn't anywhere near you. I think he's just saying that. There's fucking nobody there. Also, I think his health is full. Or maybe it recharges. Maybe it recharges. His health recharges. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, look at the... You dodging out of the way, you dirty bastard, Jack.
Hey, watch the paint!
What is everybody planning for the weekend, though, as well? I know a lot of us are getting a bit of a bank holiday this weekend, which is good. The weather's supposed to be brilliant. My plan is I have an old chest upstairs that we kind of keep a lot of like tiles and stuff in, and I'm going to see if I can repurpose that as an outdoor parcel box because it's good and heavy. Because we had one before, but the one kept blowing it away every time it was empty. And I put bricks in it, but then if the one got too bad, the lid just went flying. This is a proper wooden jobby. So it hopefully shouldn't budge, but I'm going to see anyway. I'm just going to blast these fuckers. Where are they? Where the fuck? Where'd they go? Are they all dead already? Oh, they're like bombing them. Look at all the loot. Lovely jubbly. Oh, fuck, they're going to get him. Optimus, what are you doing? I am trying. Jack of Wheel. Oh, fuck, they actually are quite close. Fuck! Well, Jack, what'd you do? What'd you do after? Saturday, Thorn has a vet appointment. Take him on a big W. The rest is nothing. That's the most adult way to spend your weekend. It is. But it was Hook put me in the idea for it, because the other night when I was streaming, he was all, oh, I'm painting the fence. And I was like, oh, you're a proper dad now. I think if I keep my big attack for whenever those big guys show up, hopefully it should be a bit better. Maybe lure all my teammates back down beside Wheeljack then at that point, because they were all standing beside me, holding their ducks. going to get to bed early. Kira, not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on. Hook, if you wouldn't mind giving a Kira, we shout out as well, please. I know you were streaming the same time as me last night, so I never even got a chance to call in. I'm currently out fixing the fence. Given the what's that word? Pergoga? A second hook? Look at him using big fancy words. I am a simple man. I know we all probably do follow Kira in here anyway, but definitely give him a follow. He is also bald and beautiful. Let's go. Are they on you, Wheeljack? Are they on you? It seems like Wheeljack is a bit of a bitch. Right, what's the next one? Seekers? These guys was not... Yeah.
Never stood a chance.
Never stood a chance. Covered seating area? Right, okay. Fancy boy and his fancy pergogas. And his uchi katanas.
I'm leaking all over.
Now, the reason I brought that up earlier is I don't know what other people's opinion of my streams are, and what kind of things, what impression they have of what they're going to tune into whenever they do tune into one of my streams. And it just got me thinking. Got me thinking. I love the fact that this thing is so delicate it can cause a giant warp, like black hole. And we're all standing on top of it, fighting with massive energy swords and explosions. We're all, this is fine, but if Wheeljack tries to fix it too quick, the thing will blow up. Cars and trucks and planes driving over the top of it. But this is fine. This is grand. I come only for I bet. You do. You're only here for the butts. Fucking Wheeljack. Oh no, he's alive! He's alive! Right, this is where the big fuckers show up. So if I go into this mode, I can initially blast them, maybe even take one of them out, because they were big fuckers. And already, they're fucking getting stuck in there. I'll Wheeljacko. I can take one of them down at least. Right, okay, we got it.
I'm embarrassed for you.
As long as it doesn't do like, oh, there's 12 of them now and you're going to have to deal with it. Fuck you.
The case is open.
Santa Cons. For Menasor. This was always a transformer I was never that fussed on because the majority of the frame is just Motormaster and then they've stuck cars on the rest of it. Nifty, thank you very much for checking in. Welcome. Welcome on, buddy. The aerial bots are the exact same where it was one transformer that was the actual bulk of the frame. Not like the Constructicons. The Constructicons were 6 individual construction robots that formed one. And where the fuck did everyone else go? I'm sorry. No. Yous have all disappeared on me. Oh fuck, right, I don't have any... Ooh. I might have to go for the hard code, but should I? Because I'm going to die now in a wee second. Oh, that's kind of cool. I do like that attack. Yeah, it got me anyway. We're dead. Nifty, what's happening? How is your night going? case is shut. Ram me? Excuse me, sir. I do realize this is getting a lot more Souls-like as well, where I kind of have to really watch what I'm doing. Horrible too hot. I'm not finding it too bad tonight. It is fucking warm. Sierra!
Excuse
No!
No. What do you say?
Hi, fair play.
No. No. I'm not gonna give you a treat.
Just when you can.
What do you say?
Distracted me. I'm phase 3 of a boss. How did you know, Cleo? Cleo, how did you know? How did you know? Look at her. Look at her. You can just see. Look at her wee tails. Look at her wee tails and her wee feet. Look at her tails and her little feet. So watching. Watching. What'd you get? What'd you get? She loves it. She loves the camera. She's a diva. Look at her. Look at her. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm only joking with you. Jesus, it's grand. We're boiling alive. Get out of the boiling water. It is very warm. I'm not too bad tonight. I'm grand. I know Mike was streaming earlier and he cut his stream short because he's like up on the 3rd floor of a building and it was fucking really hot. It wasn't on purpose. You didn't press the redeem for the dog on purpose. I don't believe it. I don't think that's true. Look at her face. Look at how angry she is. She got a treat. She's so angry.
The case is
Oh,
open.
the redeem was on purpose. Doing the phase 3. I'm not even on phase 3. I was only joking. It was Flimwash who was phase 3er. Oh, I don't even time that one right at all. No! Turn you to ruins. Here is my retort, which sounds like some sort of nice dessert. Raspberry retort. With pavlova. And honeycomb ice cream. That is my favorite type of ice cream as well. Fucking love honeycomb. You know what? See if I bump up my attack damage. Can't believe will this work for my big attack? Yes, it fucking will. Look at the chunky chunks we're taking off from there. I have the power. By the power of Grayskull. I am absolutely loving this game. Maybe not so much with where the health is. I didn't realize this had also been restored, so I can get stuck on with another one. And as far as I remember, it will start me phase 3 again. Or not phase 3. It doesn't have phase 3. Why do I keep saying phase 3? Well, that's just always a flim flam man's fault. Yeah, I'm dead. Like, even Dark Souls doesn't take away your items when you use them. But Transformers is the real Souls game.
Fucking diabolical.
Fucking
Hey, watch the paint.
He's a fast boy for being so big as well, isn't he? Oh, right in the gusset. Right in the giblets, I got him. There we go. Blast him. Oh, got me. If I kind of camp his back heel, maybe that'll work. Oh, no, got me. Oh, crap. Right, okay. We're fucked. We're fucked. Oh, I was just about to do my other move. No. You the Autobot. You lack even pride, Scourge. Just whap him with us as well, so it means I can build it up again. That one keeps getting me.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Fucking double. Stop doing the sideways one. You know I'm weak to it. You know I can't stop you. No. Right. Okay. Oh, he stabbed it straight into the core as well. Fuck that shit. No. He has a completely different moveset now, and he threw me into them. Oh, that was good. Good. Well done, sir. Well done. If I can't get him now in this one, I might go back to the Arc and see if there's any upgrades I can fire on. And it's not even like hitting them in certain locations is going to help me out much. My efforts to hit him in the dick doesn't seem to work. Oh, I can't avoid that one. I would have had him that last time, or the very first time I would have had him if I had it. Thank you very much, Chrissy Tina. I appreciate you signing on. Right. I'm dead. We'll return to Arc. I am going to see if there's any upgrades or anything I can buy, because I don't think I've upgraded in a wee while. What has happened, Christina? How are you this evening? Because I can probably up my damage a wee bit. Right, I don't want to watch all these. I don't know what these mean. Confirm. Equip and synthesize weapons. Synthesize. Devastator. Thank you very much, Hook, for doing the shout out. I appreciate it, brother. Melee. So this is what I have equipped at the moment. Can I just keep... Oh, hold on, what was that? Hyper Lightning Sword? What are you? Oh, I think that's Grimlocks. I'm good. Wrecked. Spent all day to dismantle my daughter's loft bed. Thank you. Oh, I imagine that was a bit of a nightmare in the heat. Also, I don't think that steel sword is equipped by me. Bump them up a wee bit. Cannot level further. Right, okay, you've gone to your highest level. Okie dokie. And equip. Make sure that's what I have equipped. Them swords. I do. Free slot? How dare you? How dare you? Took 2 core loads, took the dump. And from the top of the house too. Oh, nightmare. Oh, I can imagine that being absolutely shite. Free sniper rifle. I haven't been using that actually. Cack. Developed. Cack.
I think I see what we can make with these. It'll work.
Ally heal 10%. I don't care about healing my ally.
All right.
No offense.
Got it. Sometimes I
Aha!
express myself.
Acceleration up, focus duration. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Right, okay, okay, let's equip these. Knockdown defense and rush attack. We're going to get rid of you. I'm going to have the acceleration up one. That'll be good. Right, okay, okay, okay. Status. Oh, right, I can add XP as well. Bump up my strength. And we'll bump us up another wee bit. And does this bump up the weapons? No. No, it doesn't do anything there, it's just the XP. Right, okay. What's Verb? What's Verb? FRB, what's Verb? We need more games like this. I love Platinum's games, like see Bayonetta and stuff. Oh, they're so good. Skill, endurance, intelligence, rank. What was his rank? Explain what these are. Charge, strength and speed and endurance and intelligence I can understand, but what does rank do? And what does Verb do? Like what's my Verb in real life? Do I have a 9 Verb in real life? Fuck knows. I might put my endurance up. It's up, bumps up my defense. By good, but too. Apple bottom jeans and the Verb. Oh, nope, didn't mean that. What are you putting up? Rank doesn't look to be bumping any of my stats up. I was hoping it was going to be one of them all in one. What do you do? Your ranged attack, I don't really give too much of a shit about ranged attack. Melee attack, you just tied to strength. Let's charge. Right, your defense. Oh, defense, yes. Why not call it defense? Why call it charge? Ah, you need to build up your charge. Verb, did I find out what Verb was? Verb is defense and melee attack. Yes, we'll bump both these up. Or is melee attack maxed out? Okay, okay. Begin mission. Return to gameplay. Yes. Let's see how much of a difference this makes now. I don't like the lack of a shop though. See the fact that it doesn't let you pick up items? I think that's a bit mental. Watch the paint. I'm assuming one of them is probably how quickly your special meter pulls up. And I do like side swipes, or yeah, I do like his cannon attack. Here's my retort.
Playtime's over.
I didn't even know you were streaming.
Fortunate for you.
How did I not see you stream, brother? Was it more First Berserker Kazan? Where did you get the what boss you get? I'm having a bit of a boss botheration here myself. Sorry, just 1 wee second, I'll be right with you. Because I'll probably die. Although I do kind of feel that upgrades help a little bit. Oh, that's him dead. He's dead. Fuck, here we go, Smiths. Thank you very much for choosing me for your raid. Welcome in. Flamos, shut it, Leoric. How dare you, sir? How fucking dare you? How dare you? Ariel, welcome on. First time chatter. Thank you very much for coming on. Let's see what we got. Take one of those from me. Yes, lad. Ginge, welcome on as well. What's happening? Just killed Scalpel. Scalpel was a brilliant boss. Oh my god, that fake out. That got me good. I was celebrating. After I beat Scalpel, I was like, yes! And then just the hand comes out. And I was like, oh, fuck. And then just the more difficult phase started. And I was like, oh, the first bit was a breeze. And I struggled with it. But Scalpel is a phenomenal boss. Yeah, he was quite tough. And he was so quick. One thing I didn't notice until afterwards is that Scalpel's health naturally in the second phase will go down by itself. Good Sarah, welcome in. Thank you very much for coming in with the raid. That Scalpel's health will go down by itself, which I didn't actually notice previously. But anybody that raids into me also goes on my Hall of Fame. Sorry, a little late. You weren't the... Hey, a wizard is never late, nor is they early. They arrive precisely when they mean to. Yeah, I had to use that. Ah, I know, just run away from them and eventually you'll just die. Just like me in real life, because I'm old, I'll eventually just die from chasing you. So, there we go, in our Hall of Fame. You're over there, Spades, in the yellow. Thank you so much for choosing me for your raid. If you need the raid and run, definitely go do so. Go do some after stream care. If you want to hang out and watch me play some delisted Transformers, you're more than welcome as well. I get out of breath going up the stairs in my old age. Man, I get that. Thank you for checking on. What level are you? Level 12, a white mage, a healer extraordinaire. I didn't raid, but I'm going to run a by ice cream. Team Train, I hope you enjoy the ice cream. I appreciate it. Can you bring me some?
I don't think I've introduced myself yet.
Oh, thank you very much for the follow. Good Sarah, I appreciate it. Welcome, and welcome to the group. We play a variety of different games. By the music and the alert system, you can see there's a lot of Resident Evil we play here. I enjoy it more because I'll be eating whilst watching you. Oh, you tease. You flirt, Team Train. Do be at least 3.2 million. It's over 9,000. For anybody wanting to know what's happening as well on screen, everybody who checks in, they go up a level every time they come on the stream and check in. The cumulative total of everybody's levels goes up against the boss at the end of stream, and the bar appearing at the top will let you know as you go how far you are from beating the boss.
Your incompetence.
Cue the Autobots.
Laugh while you can, Megatron. But I will laugh last.
They have gone through the space bridge. After them.
I tell dad jokes. I am always the one who laughs last. That's what happens. Don't worry, guys and girls. I'll solo the boss. Ah, thank you, Spence. Appreciate it. See? Come on, sorting it for me. New challenge mode. We are sticking with Sideswipe. Sideswipe's our boy. We've been leveling him up. He's nice and quick. And now we're flying through space. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why. Who's a healer? Me, the white mage. I know. White mage soloing it. Starscream.
To be lost in space, Autobot.
So this game, it's a Transformers game made by PlatinumGames, the same crowd who made Bayonetta. And very, very combat heavy, even though you can turn into cars and stuff in it. And very, very Souls-like in its bosses. They are punishing. You have to kind of learn their movesets. You have to go for dodges. There's no parry mechanic or anything, but you can shoot on it as well, but I tend to not focus on it. I go purely melee. This is so disorientating. PlatinumGames are great. Oh, phenomenal gameplay. Phenomenal. And this is the reason we're playing this. One, I'm a massive Transformers fan. But 2, it is... Where the fuck is he? 2, it is a delisted game, so it is no longer available to buy digitally. I bought a copy of this physical copy for the Xbox, so I will always have it. I had bought it digitally, but because I didn't have it downloaded when they took it off the store, I now no longer have it. And that's kind of what you run into with a lot of games. When licensing agreements and things are up, you are kind of at the will of the... Fuck! That got me. Beds, you son of a bitch. This is a very strange level. They're not all like this, where you can't see the ground. Just driving about in space, fighting a jet fighter. It's the most PlatinumGames kind of boss fight I can think of. Fuck, it got me too. Oh, it does. It makes... See, especially, I have a window right beside me, and it makes me think there's someone outside it. But it is Friday Eve. Tomorrow is Friday, so it's legally the weekend, in my opinion. And if you live in Northern Ireland as well, we get a bank holiday on Monday, so it's a long weekend too. And the weather's going to be lovely. Probably go to the beach. Oh shit, I didn't mean to say it out loud. Sorry, Bob. Do I have any health? I have no health. Fuck. Right, okay. Oh, he's getting stuck, isn't he? And I'm about to die. The healing in this game is brutal. There is healing items you can pick up. You can't buy any. And they're very few and far between. Thomas and I are on the top floor of the house where that knocking routine went off. You say it scared the life out of me because I was wondering if someone could be at the window. Vampires! Vampires. One more day. But it's Friday, so technically it doesn't even count as a day at work, so it's fine. It's fine. I give you permission as random internet man to take tomorrow off. Right, Starscream, if you could stay still for just a moment, that would be great. I feel like I'm in some sort of Voltron sort of power-up animation here. Gotta get him in the arse. Get him in the arse! That's my special move, and it does a lovely bit of damage. But like my special move in real life, it doesn't last long. It's impactful for just a moment. Oh, dodge. Yep, dodge, dodge. I'm in the office. No, Sierra, no, not the office tomorrow. Tell them he can't. Tell them he can't. Tell them Flimosh has... because of all the hot sauces he's been eating, he has extreme diarrhea and may dehydrate, and you have to stay in the house and care for him. And they've all met him, so they'll know it's probably true. There you go, I just gave you a stellar excuse. You to use that one. And just... you're still going to work, but as an extenuating circumstance, you need to be in the house just to watch Flimosh doesn't shit his own brains out. I'll get the sauce for it. I used that one last time, it has already been used. Tell him Flimosh at your car. That's also a valid excuse. The car mentioned loop theory, and Flimosh destroyed it by consuming it.
Never stood a chance.
Never stood a chance. I'm kind of done with this with this one boss fight. I loved the Menasor one we did just before this. It was very difficult, very cool. But this one is a little bit annoying just because of how disorientating it is. Did he say now we're on crack? It feels like it. Come on, Starscream, let's go. If I can keep the damage up, I might be able to get him. I love with a lot of the combos, you don't even have to be hitting them. If you can just do the animation for the combo, you can just whip up and kill them. Loop theory, 100% Sarah, that's what it is. Get violent intentions. Construct a car. He got knocked the fuck out.
Will you never learn, Megatron?
It's so...
Annihilation of an inhabited planet is not what our ancestors wanted. How little you really know.
The theory can pass away. It keeps coming back, Flamash. It must be looping. It must be looping. Blitzwing. Or no, it might be Astro Train. No, it's Blitzwing. Here's my retort. That's not fair. I had buddies with me and they've all fucked off. But this guy's friends, oh, they all get to stay.
Seven minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
Tomahawk, what has happened, brother? Did someone say loop theory? Whoa, well timed. Yes, lad. There we go. Sucking diesel now, aren't we, sir? Oh, he said thanks. Sucker. Oh, my face is itchy. My face is itchy. You said loop theory and you were summoned. I know, it was phenomenal. Like Hellraiser. Or the Candyman. Or Joe Henry. I'm hoping to get some help from these guys. Anybody got some help for me, please? Oh, that missile was right. So. Look at the slither of health I have. It is a joke. Yeah, I got me. Also, great news. I got confirmation today I was successful in the London Marathon ballot. What? I didn't even know you were putting in for the London Marathon. Fair play. Jesus, it's not something I could do. But fuck. Fair play. Yeah, I'm just gonna... These guys are of no help to me, so I'm going to see if I can take them out first. Or maybe not. Maybe I could group them all together whenever my big attack comes. Did he drop health? Look at him. He dropped health. Fucking was dying for health the last time and nobody dropped it. Your man just flat. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, I got it. I got it. Woo! Woo! Out of the way, blockhead. That's a bad word. Lado, give me help this time round. Jeez, son of a bitch. Probably because it knows I don't need it. Well, I will need it. Apparently 3.1 million applied, and I am 1 in 10,000 to go on. Now do you remember how the one? Well, hey man, just very basics, one foot in front of the other. But faster. It's like walking, but faster. Why did you go there, sir? barely looking down on him now. I have to keep me up. I have to keep me wits about me. Do they have any items? Do they have anything I can take? Oh, I have a repair kit. Don't think I have anything that boosts my health, though. I haven't been taking any of these. Increase my verb. I got them apple bottom jeans and the verb. Come on, down the scepter creep. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. Tom, thank you for checking on. I still need to figure out what I'm going to do to try and make it more competitive between people when it comes to that. You know, would you rather some sort of system in place where you can fuck up someone else's level? I need to figure out how to do it as well. Here is my retort. Ooh, that was close.
But Daddy is a state of mind, you know what I'm saying?
Daddy is a state of mind.
I'm your daddy.
Repair kit. I'm gonna treat it like a lower Parry 2 speedrun. What if I fall over and just restart with BRT? Man, that's the way to do it. That's how I just approach life. Just if a day's gone bad, just restart the next day. If you have a slip or a fall, redo it. Don't think of it as one day, think of it as day one. Ice Bombs, the movie. The year is 2005. Fuck, he is going all out. I don't even want to use my ability on him because I think I've got him. Yes! There we go. The orc is everyone's dad. Are you my dad? Yes, yes I am. Beds, I didn't want to tell you. That all them years ago when I went to the shop to get milk. Never came back. Can I shoot that? Does that get me anything? You took this. Oh, I've unlocked character art? I didn't know I could do that. Here we go. Enough dad jokes to go around, that's true. Yes! What's this? So, it was a secret thing that opened another secret thing. Would have to race over and punch. I think you almost have pocket money there, Dad. But you didn't do your chores, so you're not getting anything. You're not getting anything until them dishes is done, that room is cleaned. And I want to see your school report. How did you get on in the big test? Are you winning? Giant ball. Ball formers. Megatron. Shockwave.
Welcome to Cybertron.
Oh, thank you. He's well nice. Oh, he welcomed me. Oh, no, wait a minute. He's going to attack me. You son of a gun. See, this is just constant boss fights now. I feel like I am going to do badly. Ooh, Shockwave, you son of a bitch. So he was the second one who turned into a gun, but he turned into more of a futuristic laser rifle. He was also the character who, whenever the Decepticons and Autobots left Cybertron to come there, he stayed in Cybertron. Kind of like a less loyal and less radical Soundwave. I didn't do well in school. Ah well, you can try again next year. Okay, that's pretty cool.
And once we do, the plasma core will save Cybertron, not doom it.
Oh, well, that's some bullshit. Oh, there's multiple shockwaves. Oh, fuck. Right, okay. Where are you? Where are you? Son of a bitch. Oh, right up in your face, brother. You're getting all my loot. Both barrel. That's the problem, I think, with when you turn into a laser gun in a kind of multi-layered arena where I could just transform and drive under it. Let's do that bullshit. Be at it. Oh, you fucker. Lamash! Why? I don't go into your stream and scare you, do I? There's been no fucking clips of me scaring you whatsoever. What the fuck is that? Quote ad. You didn't do it right. Yes! Hook fucked up. Hook fucked up. Alright. I got it then. Right in your face, brother. You're getting all of my loot. I feel like that was taken slightly out of context. You were incredibly focused. I was incredibly focused. That is true. Exit the phone out of the space. Son of a bitch. Quote, lick his ass? When did I say that? Why was I licking someone's ass? What was the context of that? I feel violated.
At Backlash?
Backlash.
Backlash.
Backlash!
At
This is Backlash. This is fucking the Royal Rumble.
At Backlash.
Ready!
Backlash. At Backlash.
Ah, gotcha, Shockwave.
At Backlash.
I've awoken from my nap, and I think I'm now 99% liquid. Liquid! Jesus Christ, we don't judge. We do judge. We do judge. Ready? What is happening with you? Brother! Ready, slurp, slurp, slurp. Moist, ready.
Nova Prime himself, who recognized the need
Ready,
for
squelch.
cyberform-populated worlds.
Decepticon lies.
Oh shit, the wall?
Once the cyberforming starts, I don't know how we can stop
What was that
it.
one for?
We can't just give up.
That thought
Oh
never
shit, the
occurred to
wall?
me, Bumblebee.
Ah! Thing. What happened?
Bring the plasma
Context be
core
damned.
online.
I know.
Construct a car.
Really does in fact bring everyone to the yard. His milkshake does, yes. The boys especially.
Already doing its work. Excellent. In less than one Earth day, there will be no more Earth days.
Fuck, that was actually pretty stupid. In one more Earth day, there will be no more Earth days. Oh, I have a shockwave blaster. There we go. One thermal swords. Fancy. Right, we might have to upgrade our weapons a little bit in this. I do like the idea of the shockwave blaster. And if I take Starscream's null rays, upgrade this shit. So it was the thermal hammer. There was thermal swords as well. Can you organize yourselves, maybe? Delay. So thermal hammer, no. Steel swords, lightning gloves. Thermal swords, they're level 3, D rank 196. What I have here? Level C 217. I feel like with a level up, these will be better. This game seems good. I am enjoying it. I like this game. Oh, I can't use that. Or can I? I can. Synthesizing. I see I've already got my total attack power up. We're not even done leveling. Oh, we are done leveling. Right, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Shockwave blasters done as well. We'll put those. And get rid of you. Shockwave blaster. And you will be twin thermal swords. Sweet. So now we can set fire to folks. I say to someone who maybe seen like 10 minutes of Transformers. I was a massive Transformers fan. And I'm buzzing over the art style and the aesthetic of this game. Like, they've got it down. They've got it down. Warp of Cybertron and Fall Cybertron are great Transformers games. Who's acquired the original series, they get to watch. Oh, very good, very good. Ready? I'll come over to your house. We'll get biscuits and me and you'll watch them. Insecticons. Doesn't get the kettle on. Nice. I'll bring some chocolate digestives.
The plasma core is in overdrive, and it's powering the Insecticons. We've got to find a way to shut it down.
Yeah, walking on it, that'll do it.
The core rupture is distorting it. Shutting Constructicon repair has failed. The leak is causing a gravitational anomaly that's sucking us in.
Hey! Wheeljack, you dirty boy.
Burn rubber!
That's just the escape. Right, okay. Oh, fuck! The floor disappeared. Ah! Stop! Blew me off. Oh, wait, that doesn't sound right. Oh, there's a timer. I got a minute. Let's speed run this shit. Oh wait, was that it? Right, okay. I had plenty of time. Can you tell that? I mean, I fucking love them. Couldn't they? Keep on not eating the whole packet when it's open. I'll share them. You have half the packet. I'll have half the packet.
Planetary extinction. No one escapes.
The Insecticons and the plasma core are but 2 of 3 components.
The Ferrotax.
Look at you looking for my health. See, keeping you alive.
Of our lost culture. Destroying it could save Earth. Megatron has Ferrotaxi.
Intruders detected. Activating security system.
Looks like Soundwave figured out how to get behind the security.
I want to see what this gun's like. This shockwave blaster. Yes. Let's go. Vroom, 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 vroom. Drive to cover. Oh, shit. I did not expect a massive gap. Yes. One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. No, I'll crush you with my bare hands. Not there. Not that way. Also not that way. Oh, look at me. Energy weapon. Nice. Alright, I have to defeat these guys then? Okay. Thank God there's no timer.
Hey, watch the paint.
Yeah, dude. Watch the paint. Smack him, you giant bug. Let's go. You have bare hands, I do. It was because of the Second Amendment I had the right to have bare arms. Why am I getting a warning? Daddy, thank you very much for checking the ledger. Appreciate you, buddy. Can I get out of here yet? No.
Have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV? With an expanded free trial, which you can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heaven's Ward. Stormblood and
Transformers, even in Pride, 100%.
With no restrictions on playtime.
You can be whatever vehicle you want to be. We are kindred spirits. Yes. Not for my shady ruin it. Shame. I'll have one or two and then bring the entire pack with me. What? No, Flemish, we must finish the whole pack, otherwise it goes off. As soon as you open it, it goes off straight away. That's the whole point. It's a legal requirement. What vehicle would you pick? Oh, good question. If I could turn into any vehicle, it would be Hot Rod's car. Be my boy, Hot Rod. What about you, Teddy? What would you pick? What would be your go-to? Energy out. Fuck. An unassuming segue. Yes. Yes, ready. Let's go. Blam, 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 blam.
What the heck was that?
Just in case there's some items for me in here. Items I'm talking about is like health. I've been ignoring them though. Goes nicely into what you were going to say. I want to be a motorbike, I think. Go boom boom. Boom boom. The only problem with the motorbike is you're really not going to fit on disguise-wise because they're going to be like, there's nobody driving that motorbike. Push the button.
As we thought, it's busted. Leave it to me.
Also, you could end up getting tickets, not just as a motorbike. Like, imagine going somewhere and just being landed with a ticket because you decided to park outside Richmond Center.
Keep repairing. It appears we have company.
Ah, but we wanted friends. Sucker. Yes. He thought he was bringing the hammer down. Me, I brought it down on him.
Hey, watch the paint.
Oh shit! No, what am I missing, chat? What am I missing? What am I missing? I've been loving WoW lately. Maybe we got back in the mythics. I haven't played WoW in a few months. Right? Okay. I even missed that one. I think my queue is ready. Yeah, they take a while. Can I be an inflatable sex doll as part of my transformation? Teddy, if you want, of course you can. And what a glorious inflatable sex doll you would be, brother. Check the cards.
I'm starting to lose my paint. Just a little longer.
What do you mean a little longer? You're only 10% of the way through, Wheeljack.
Get this guy off me.
Let's go. It's a Tim Lunch and Sex Doll song. Or did you ever see the one on Only Fools and Horses where they had inflatable dolls in the car? Fucking loved Only Fools and Horses. Get the big guy. I thought there was someone beside him. Let's go. You're looking well. I hope you feel it, Teddy. You are a fucking gem. Thank you so much for that compliment. I know as well. Teddy's only saying it because I've gone on the stream a few times and said how amazing he's looking. But Teddy is hitting the gym. He's eating well. And he's looking well. Absolute legend, so he is. Get rid of your fucking shield, would you? Ah, for fuck's sake, Wheeljack. I can't get those guys. I can't get enough space to run at them.
As we thought, it's busted. Leave it to me.
Yeah, I trust you, Wheeljack. You're not going to fuck it up. But I appreciate the compliment, Eddie. Thank you very much. Very, very nice of you to say. I have done nothing to improve my health, but I really should start. Summer months are coming on. Need to get out more. Get back to the gym. I think you've inspired me, Teddy. That's what you've done. That's what you've done.
I could use some assistance.
Oh, fuck. Okay. I can't get to you, Wheeljack. You're going to have to deal with it yourself, brother. Oh, no, maybe I could. Maybe that was a lie. I don't know. I don't know. See, when they're down the ground, they're fine. But up in that wee gap, I can't get enough speed to get them. It's not because of your compliments, but we really shouldn't be afraid of telling one another when we're looking out. I 100% agree. I think we should normalize that shit. Tell your buddies you love them. Tell them that they're looking great. Promote men's mental health.
Hurry it up, Wheeljack. I'm starting to look.
Fucking right, Teddy. I agree with you.
Just a little longer. I'm leaking all over. Worthless.
Unless it's Hook, because then he's trying to steal hugs. We don't tell him. We don't tell him. We say nothing, dude. There, got that one. Will somebody let me hit them? Thank you.
Never stood a chance.
Yes, gotcha. What are you gonna do now, brother? Tina, what are you saying? Yes, men's mental health doesn't get enough media coverage at all. It should really around the world, especially Northern Ireland. 100%. Much like your best version of yourself right now, handsome as feck. There we go, Hook. Swan on them. Seriously agree. The thing is, especially where we're from, it has a very, very high percentage of male suicides. And it is a subject that a lot of people are starting to now openly talk about, and it's phenomenal. The fact that we are starting to deal with it and talk about it and not just brush on the carpet and not do this whole stupid macho bullshit where like, men shouldn't talk about their feelings. Fuck. Fed up all that nonsense. It's a whole having to bury it because you're afraid of what people think or going to say that has caused a lot of issue in the first place. And the thing is, when you start talking about it, you realize other people are going through the same shit. Other people are thinking the same stuff. Suckers! Ah, who's this now? Starscream? No, it's just a secret. Just bopped him. Wheeljack, there was nobody beside you there, kiddo. Oh, for fuck's sake, Wheeljack, come on! Bro Charmer. With a decent amount of water between us. Way. Yeah, I was raised to man up, never show emotions. Now, yeah, and I think it's going to fade out with each generation, and it's telling your kids that as well. Ginge, I actually watched a documentary, Danny Dare on Netflix, about men's mental health, and it was eye-opening. Definitely worth a watch. Ooh, I haven't seen that. Let's give that a wee go. Don't threaten me with a good time. Why does the in-game music sound like Vote of Kings? Because it's stuck in your head. Lives there now, rent-free. Oh, don't start me from the start. Come on, this is difficult enough. Wheeljack doesn't have the constitution for this. I look like a troll, but if I rocked up to your house with a CRT, I reckon I'd look... Oh, if you showed up the Hook's house with a CRT, you'd be his. Or he'd be yours, sorry. Well, same old, doesn't matter. We get this guy right in the crotch. Yeah, Ginge, thank you very much for suggesting it. Must give it a watch myself. I remember watching that Louis Theroux thing about, you know, the stupid male chauvinist dickheads, and it actually angered me watching it, just being all like, why are they like that? Why do they think it's acceptable to talk to women like that? Why do they think it's acceptable to just go on like that in general? Because they were just going on like absolute animals. Watching Danny Dyer's and throws, and yeah, the manosphere. That's it. That's the one. Fucking arseholes. I think the benefit that we kind of have, especially in Derry, is in Northern Ireland, is the Irish family is a matriarchal family. So the mammy is the head of the household. You respect your mother. The biggest threat you can give someone is, I'm going to tell your mammy. There's none of this. The man is in charge. You do still get misogynism and all that nonsense. But see, the husbands walking around acting a big man in front of their mates. They're fucking terrified of their wives when they get home. Wheeljack, I swear to fuck. I don't know who you're aiming at. I wanted to get the big guy. Right, these stupid snipers need to go. What guy? Optimus, right, I am one person. You all need to start holding the finger out. This is not a one-man job. We are supposed to be a team here. Wheeljack, I swear to fucking Jesus, sir. For fuck's sake, Wheeljack! Stop dying on me, sir. What am I missing? I haven't cut the manosphere. They definitely gave small dick energy. That is true. Luther, but I heard it some. It is worth a watch. It is worth a watch. The guy that had his mum on really angered me because his mum disagrees with his behavior. But, oh, I know. How did they get away with that? My partner's mum passed away a couple of years ago, and I kind of took her seat as the one that keeps everyone together. I can confirm the men are scared of me, and Christina, they should be. They should be. Irish families, the mommy's in charge. Obviously doesn't bother her that much. I know, but that's kind of her fault then. He's turned out that way. However, she did tell him. She told him to clean up. I know, but he didn't listen to her. There's no, he didn't care. Where, when my mom was still alive, she wasn't a physically opposing person at all, but disappointing her was a fear. So the respect was always there. And seriously, it's a thing here. We're all scared of our mammies, even though mine's like 4 foot tall. And I don't even think it's fear. It's not fear. It's a respect thing. You respect your mother. You might not agree with everything they say, but you fucking respect them. This guy. This guy. Got you. Oh my god. 2 of them. 2 of the big boys. 2 of the big boys! I'm embarrassed for you. Like 70% Wheeljack, come on. I need a checkpoint as well at some point. Right, I am fighting the big guy. I need the resties that they pull the finger out and get some stuff done. If Wheeljack dies, it's on you guys, not me. Right, that one was kind of on me. I need to get these. I do. Here is my retort. Are both them down? No. Sorry, chat. I am not ignoring yous. I will be with you in a little second. Bing! I'm hoping for a bing. Hoping for a bing. Activate the lift. Yeah, I'm 5 foot nothing. But they know. Oh, I know. It's a respect thing more than a fear thing, which is good. You're right. It's a fear, good point. As my ma would say, I brought you into this world, knock you back out of it. She was a scary lady. I agree. I'm drilled in to respect your parents in general, and why treat others like that. Yeah, I know. If my mum says my full name, you know we're in shit, and that's a thing as well. Once that respect is kind of caught, you do kind of carry it forward as well, and you just see that absolute animals sometimes, so you just were dragged up instead of being brought up. Same if my wife says my full first name. Like, I know you joke about Flamos, but I know you disrespect your wife, and I know if anybody disrespected your wife, you'd be like, me or you fucking minute. I may joke about her, but there's no fucking chance you get to talk to her like that. So you may joke and be like, I'll buy another computer and nobody can tell me no, blah blah blah, but you can sense the respect is definitely there. I just flew off the edge and died.
Sorry, we're going streaking!
We're going streaking!
And into the gymnasium! Come
yeah,
on,
that's very
everybody!
true. No, an Irish Maz give you a look. Oh, I know. It's the look of disappointment as well, isn't it? It's precisely why both my kids have no names, just to put the fear in them. That's what we do it. That's what we do it. 15 stream streak as well. Thank you very much, Kraken. Welcome on. I wouldn't even run. Well, if I get full named, you freeze. You just be all shit. But no, if I like see when my kids get married, if I heard my son talk to his partner any way apart from respectful, I'd be like, "Me or you, wee minute. You may not be in my house anymore, but I'm going to clip you. Don't talk to anybody like that." Moonwalking. Hee hee. They fucked around and they found out. I dragged someone in the front door of the Fish concert and chucked them in the mosh pit, accidentally punching him in the face. Yeah, I remember you saying that as well, and that's it. It just flicks, and you're like, no, that doesn't happen. They call something be kind. It's mutual respect, if not compassion. Yes, that's it. And not to go into religion or anything too much, but I would not be a very religious person at all. I'd be more identifying as atheist rather than anything. And you do always get the, but if you don't believe in God, you know, how do you have morals? Morals is something separate. Morals is something that's drilled into you. Morals is just a respect for human life and other people, and it's nothing to do with religion. Spades has an unfortunate as unfortunate with me, I'm a firstborn daughter, granddaughter, and great-great-granddaughter, so I'm always right. Well, you're right in what you're saying. I completely agree. You're completely right. You know, I had to acknowledge it, and then I apologize. There'll be no issue, but it's just sort of looked and went back to being a dick, so I trailed them out. You did right. I would have done the same. I would have done the same. It's not on Flemish. You're right. You know, Christian values have been a Christian. They're not music. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you just want the... Ooh, where am I? You want to still be a good person without the fear of going to hell. You know what I mean? And I don't think the fear of going to hell is the reason why people are moralistic as well. I think people have morals because they're just decent, good people. And then you have other people who are just assholes. Shit, this looks interesting. This is interesting. I'm enjoying the shit out of this. It's a lot of fun. There's loads going on, and
too close.
It's Transformers. I'm in a spaceship, and now I'm a sports car. Yo. Speak for yourself. What do you mean? You don't think it looks interesting? How dare you? I can't convince me otherwise. It's you're Teddy, you're 100% right. Ah, your security system did nothing. You didn't anticipate a sports car. Where am I going? Oh, this looks like a boss arena if I've ever seen one. It's a ball. We're balls deep now, folks. We be balling. Oh shit! I must get a wee look as well because the DLC for Grand Blue Fantasy will be out soon. If it isn't already. I know it's out July. I just didn't look to see exactly what date.
Never stood a chance.
I might see if there's actually, because I played that in PlayStation Plus. I might see if there's like a Game of the Year edition or something, or a complete edition comes out when the DLC comes out for it. That would be nice. I'm falling down that hole. Nope, I'm not. He's back to his shenanigans. Son of a bitch. Why? And he's down. We're balls deep now, folks. Teddy, thank you very much for clipping that. Nice one. Cutscene before your feet touch the ground. I think it's a lot of things that shape a person's morals, upbringing, family beliefs, and even media. That's just true. Yeah. To be fair, the only thing I experienced a fella being a dick was my older stepbrother, and I put him in his place. My step, I said rightly so. He wasn't raised to talk down to women, so he wasn't going to try it with me. Yep, you did right. My daughter had a boyfriend, and she didn't want to be with him anymore, and I said, right, well, you know what, use me as an excuse. Say your dad flipped, and he's denied you having a boyfriend, he forbids it, and you can use me as the reason so you don't come across the bad guy. She did that, and her and the wee boy were 12, so he got very immature about it. And started like kicking her and stuff whenever he was seeing her and being a dick there. And she's all, what will I do? And I was all, are you afraid of him? You know, do you want me to handle it? Do you want your brother to handle it? And she goes, no, you know what? I'm going to sort it. The next time, in front of all her friends, he came over and started acting a dick there. She beat the absolute shit into him and left him crying. And I was like,
tell me what you want.
There we go. That's how it's handled.
Oh,
he never came near again.
Me? No.
I don't normally condone violence.
What do you say?
But.
No. I'm not going to give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please.
But that's how it was handled. And I'm hoping that drilled into him a wee bit of fuck about, and this is what happens to you. Sarah, I saw a notification about Finn, but lost it on Discord. I've hunted it down, so please could you enlighten me? Is the pictures of it? Yes, the picture posted. Very good. Good girl. Yes, Sarah. Yes, Leo transforming. Right, that's what's happening. They're in Ian's Discord. Right, okay. Go on, yes. Yeah, so she battered him and he crawled away crying. And everybody kind of laughed at him but for getting beat up by a girl. But at the same time, she has a big brother. She knows how to handle herself. And I think it gave her a bit of a confidence boost as well. It was just like, no, you're not going to lay your hand on me. And it was pretty much, you know, nobody lays a hand on me. And I'm damn sure you, who I dumped, going to touch me. My ex pulled my hair in front of my dad. Bad move. Oh, Ginge, I would have killed him. I would have fucking killed him. My God. Oh, there. Oh, and I would have enjoyed murdering him. How dare anybody do that? Am I supposed to be going this way? Maybe I could just ignore them all. No, this guy wants to fight. Oh, dog cam still on. Putting chat about the game. Going, oh, look at all these sweet moves. Can't see it, buddy. Can't fucking see it. Get out. Is that health? I think it might be health. It's something. Hello. Yeah. Hey. I don't know if this is a thing where I could have just ran through it all, but you know what? I'm enjoying the combat. I'm enjoying the fighting. I'm enjoying punching folk. 0 degrees is 32 freedom units. What are we doing now? I saw a hook. Assume it was 0C. Right, okay. Right, okay. Yeah, so I have a streamer bot command set up that if anybody types in a temperature, it converts it between Fahrenheit and Celsius. So 0C works, yeah. So we'll convert it because you normally get it because we have such a multicultural community. You get people coming in saying, "Oh, it's 82 degrees Fahrenheit," and everyone's like, "I don't know what that is in Celsius," and this will automatically convert it. So it does the calculation in the background and then translates it. And it's just a wee sample script that I wrote in StreamerBot. Everybody, let's convert them all. There we go. Shit, we don't have one. I'll fix that. A pets channel? We don't have a pets channel? Hook. Happy days, man. Thank you. That's pretty cool. Yeah, because it does normally lead to that whole conversation where someone has to go Google then what the amount is. And it's just a calculation, so we shouldn't really need it if we can get StreamerBot just to do it for us. And it doesn't use up any resources really to do it, so it's handy. Still welcome in. Well, if it isn't the nicest Northern Irish man I know, yes, I have won the prize. I hear pets. I have won the prizes. Tomahawk, you wandered in and seen me be crowned the nicest Northern Ireland man. So you are the winner. You've won the stream. You've won the internet. Congratulations.
Me don't like this place. Something smells funny. I agree, old friend. I can sense it.
There's someone coming in Fahrenheit, and we jump on him and say, "Convert that immediately, you heathen!"
The goodness within him. The nobility
I'm making hook spectral now in Discord. Yes. Let's do it in reverse. Yes, if you put it in Fahrenheit, it will convert it to Celsius.
To the galaxy. But something went wrong. A darkness fell over him, burrowed into him. Something corrupted him, driving him mad.
It is magic. It is welcome on as well. How's your day going?
To destroy Earth, but only after encountering some singular entity. Something bent not just
Independence Day, aliens.
But our destruction. And Nova
That's really handy. Yeah, because it does come up, especially see when it gets warm like this and people start talking temperatures. And then we have maybe Tankin, and he's like, I don't know what that is. Convert it to freedom units.
One of our own really went bad on us?
It appears so. Teletran 1, Find us a way to the control room.
Awful things, but it's nearly done. On the way.
I do not have enough access to tell you how to operate the platform, however.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Well done, Prime.
Do it.
Ah, yes. Soundwave.
Operation Obliteration.
Is it going to be me on my own? What the fuck it is? Where did everyone else clear off? They were there in the cutscene and then they just disappear on me. Fuckers. I'm liking these fire swords. Rumble. Laser beak. Does that help? I don't think it does help. It's like XP or something. Fucking sidewave. Let's go. Done. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, so on the Discord now, there's a pets channel. Nicely job. Rumble and Ravage. Ooh, Ravage. Kinda did that yourself, didn't you, Soundwave? Oh, I'm getting out of there. Oh fuck, I'm about to die. Let's go. Sammy! Welcome on. Thank you for checking in, buddy. We're fighting all the Transformers.
How are you still alive?
I don't know how I'm still alive. Thank you very much for the sub. And questioning why my health is still here. I have 3 minutes, so I'm here for those 3 minutes, Sammy. I am overjoyed. Thank you. Anybody else following Sammy, please do so. Playing through Final Fantasy X, I think, at the moment. Autobot Defenses is doing okay. Soundwave, you check yourself before you, in fact, wreck yourself. Whoa. I love the fact that they've given him proper sound attacks as well, rather than just, he's a blue transformer. I'm a bit dubious that we haven't fought Megatron yet. We fought Starscream twice, we fought Soundwave twice, Blitzwing twice. I can't speak. That's him done. Yes. Mr. Worldwide. I fucking love that thing. Oh, my animation cancelled by Transformer. Interested? Yeah, it's a platinum game. So it's very, very Bayonetta combat based.
Be ready for anything.
GG, thank you. There's my boy, Optimus Prime. Peter Cullen. Who I thought was in his 90s, but we found out last week he's actually 84, I think. Loudspeaker. Confirm. Challenge mode, yes. Can I upgrade my weapons or the maximum? I think they might be. I can't level them any further. No, that does let me level. Right, okay. I can also do status. Bloody love sideswipe. So do I. He's so quick. He's a great former. It was Ferb, wasn't it? But Ferb kind of did 2 stats in one go. defense and melee attack, and that's what I was bumping up because it's my bread and butter. That's what I use. There's actually a decent amount of Transformers you can play as in this game because you have Sideswipe, you have Wheeljack, Grimlock, Optimus Prime, and Bumblebee. But Sideswipe's my boy. He's my boy. We see Uncle Flying's landing there going, he's my boy.
So, Soundwave has fallen. It hardly matters now.
Well, that's a bit cruel, Megatron. He's your boy. He's your boy. He's your boy.
Busy. We've almost won.
We are
He's red, Lambo. Coutage, and as a toy, he's my fave. Mine's was Hot Rod. Mine's was... Rod. Mine was this boy. From Transformers the movie. I know a lot of people didn't like him because he got Optimus Prime killed, but, you know, I loved his vehicle form. Hot Rod also, yes. But yeah, the sports cars were the best. And obviously Optimus Prime as well. He was just iconic. He was just an absolute brute. You boys going to stand there? He's going to come and help me. What's the story? And then Sunstreaker was Sideswipe's brother as well, and he was just a gold Lambo. I adore Transformers the movie. Although it did it did. It was my favorite thing when I was a kid. I watched it so much. I actually have you're not going to be able to see it, but I have Optimus Prime's dying hand tattooed onto my arm. Because it was a massive part of my childhood. My phone. Yeah, if you type in the chat ! Tattoos, you'll see me tattoos, but one of them, two of them is Transformers, but one of them's Hot Rod and the other one is Optimus Prime's hand as he dies. Which is weird, but I thought it was pretty iconic. It was the scene when I was a kid that made me cry. Is it tattoos or just tattoo? Try just without the S. Maybe that's what it is. You pop up then. Yeah, maybe it was tattoo. Soundtrack on that. Oh no, all the Stan Bush and Weird Al Yankovic. While they're going, I am just going to continue on fighting here. I'm a big fan of tattoos. I love when they tell a story. I love when there's a reason for them, you know, over the fact that they just look cool. I love it if there's a story behind a tattoo, why you have it. And it doesn't have to be a good story, it doesn't have to be an amazing reason, it could be just something you vibed with. A character you really liked in something, or something that means something to you. All of mine have a story. I love that. I love that. Personal fave, Dare. Oh. We need that soundtrack in this game now. Dare to be stupid. I know. Oh, Dare was the highlight on it. I also enjoy the fact that Transformers the movie, the 1986 film, was the last thing Orson Welles did before he died. The phenomenal, acclaimed actor. Last thing he did was Transformers. Leonard Nimoy was in it. Judd Nelson. Eric Idle. Phenomenal cast. Motormaster. Do you feel bad for all the generic guys? Yes, I do. Will it change anything? No. Out of the way, blockhead. Son of a bitch. Four of mine have stories. My biggest manic episodes probably shouldn't have gotten it. But I don't hate it. No. I love hearing about people's tattoos. I love sitting with someone and them showing you the tattoos and telling you why they got them and what the story and meaning behind them. What they're and they take you back to that part of your life as well and make you think about things. I'm going to blast you, Motormaster.
I'm embarrassed for you.
I don't see if there's any hell. Yes, there is. Let's go. Now, welcome, Wagon Hello Stranger. Got that new morning coffee flavour for you. Oh, but Swaz, what are you waiting up? There's a standing by. From Rosebud, before time I considered sparing your wretched little planet Cybertron. You shall witness its dismemberment. I know, that's mental. Leonard Nimoy, the bad guy, is also cool. Although not enough. No, that's also true. My favourite is a little koi fish on my arm. It's a small koi I got from my brother because he also loved fishing and wanted a tattoo, but was a big wimp. Oh, fair play. My first one I got matching my mum because the way my birthday fell and me deciding to do a level meant that the laser and jumper would have been rubbing against it. And it was fresh for 2 weeks before my 18th. So you and your mum got the same tattoo then? You got matching ones? Me and my sister did that. You would have seen a Sonic and Tails one come up. When our mum passed away, it'll be a year and a half now in December. But afterwards, me and my sister decided to get matching tattoos. Now, we played Sonic and Tails as kids. And I'm nerdy and she's a bit geeky as well. So that's what we got. And she got hers in her arm. I got mine on my leg. Where's everybody? Oh. Meow. 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 Love that. It was her idea, and you know what? It was a wonderful idea. Door's not open yet, lads. Is there something I am supposed to be doing? Did I go the wrong way? Is that what happened? Did I get turned about, not fight? Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Yeah, there's bad guys. The bad guys are over here. Oh, there's 3 bad guys. Right, okay. If I can get them all together, like for a group photo, I could probably get them with my special once I've built up. Although doing a decent amount of damage on them too. These weapon upgrades have done the job. Let's go! Although I do get the impression Optimus Prime isn't as good at this as I am. Yeah. After all that, after I destroyed 3 of your massive buddies, you decided they'd run at me. Son of a bitch. Yeah, my mother mine and says daughter with 3 flowers, and then the youngster turns 18. She'll be added. Oh, very nice, very nice. My first one was meant to be a temporary tattoo, but it was a small, terrible looking dragon. But it was sentimental value. I was only 17. My mum had a stroke and couldn't talk properly, and I said there, get a tattoo as a joke, and she said yeah, and so you got it. Oh, fair play. My nanny has always been the kind of weird about tattoos. The year my great-granddad died, she got 2 tattoos, piercings, hair pink. She would have been 64. Oh, right, okay. If I was a rapper, I'd want to be called Optimus Rhyme. Yep. And if I was a truck that could travel between the past and the future, I'd want to be Optimus Time. I got this one when I was 19. It's just a generic dragon and yin yang. And my mum tried to scrub it off with a Brillo pad. I don't know. Am I going this way? Megatron. Oh my god! A new Cybertron! No, you aimed at the wrong thing, you shoot. There we go. When it was a fresh tattoo? Yes, she did that when it was a fresh tattoo. You can still see wee bits of it where it didn't heal right, but you know what? It's not too bad. She was just I never told her I was getting it, and that was kind of my fault. I just kind of did it. I have talked to my kids about tattoos, and to be fair, they're still kind of young. But I have said to them when they grow up, the only thing I ask is they think about what they want to get done. I don't regret any of mine. I love all my tattoos. But just that, yeah, it's lovely. It's a sentimental one too. I got one when I was young and I was stupid and I hate it now. Go get it covered up. Go talk to a professional about it. I love that. My partner's mum was funny about tattoos. And after she was curious and she got a small one, Stardust one, I went with her. It was the best memories I have. I also got Kingdom Hearts tattoo that day. Oh, lovely. Yeah, I hate it, but I love it. Good advice. Yeah, so just... I'm never going to dissuade my kids from getting tattoos or piercings and stuff because it's their own style, you know, whatever they're into. The only thing I will say, because tattoos are so permanent, just think about what you want to do. And I mean that even more so the case of, you know, are you going to get a tattoo that's going to maybe affect the future sleeve that you want? Just plan it out. Talk to your tattoo artist and see what you want to do. My advice to my kids is print a picture that you want, stick it up on your wall where you're going to see it every day. Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. I wonder though, when I pass away, will they be able to just take the layer of skin with my tattoos on and maybe make like a wee mural or a wee wall hanging out of it just so that people always have it? I'm 37 and got my nose and upper ear pierced 2 weeks ago. Just what you do. Just do what you want to do, 100%. That's it. I hear that. Hugs. Keep in mind, I was grieving at the time. Wish I thought more about it. It was nice. But like some days, it's a reminder of the... Yeah, it is that, yeah. Which direction am I going? It's the sharks are freaking lasers? Probably. I got one. Up this way. Waffles! They are better than pancakes. Waffles have a syrup shuck, and so does Rare Waffles 666. Yeah, you play the game, you big nerd. What is happening? Waffles, did I see a wee announcement that you're going live tomorrow night with some more Fallout? Everybody in chat, please follow my good buddy, Rare Waffles 666, an absolute legend of a man. Wonderful streamer. He's recently come back and really enjoying his Fallout games. So Monday night is your normal night, but I see you're playing tomorrow night as well, which is going to be cool, because I am free tomorrow night and I'm going to be watching. Nerds. Also, if you like bald Irishmen with beards, he is the one that we all strive to be. I'm trying to think how many bald Irishmen with beards I know. Oh, you making me blush. We had a conversation, Waffles, we had a conversation earlier on about men should be paying each other compliments, telling them how good they look and talking about their feelings. And that's what we're going to do. Thundercracker.
Anybody else want this job?
Fuck's sake, there he is. Hope, don't you be at it. You say one nice thing about Waffles, say something that makes you smile about him now. Otherwise, you're grounded. Not that grounding is a bad thing for a parent, because going up to your room and lying in your bed is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Go to your room. Oh, okay. Cool. Hug. I do not have a hug command. You know me. There is no hugs. For anybody who missed it though, Wednesday night I do speedruns of Resident Evil 2. And last night we didn't get our PB. Our PB's 1 hour 16, but we got 1 hour 18, and there was loads of sections to improve. There was actually something I had known about with the boss. It never worked for me, and I got it to work last night. Can I get it to work consistently? I don't know. I tried to punch Grimlock. I did. So we'll see if it works consistently next time. Ooh, there's loads of health in there. Nicely done. I don't like how Thundercracker and Skywalker have had such a small butt role in this game. They are two phenomenal characters. Oh, all of the lads! Look at that, we're just getting so good! Yes, man. Let's go. Saka! Quote, Hook is a good-looking man and I'm raging. When did I say that? When did that happen? 24, well, wasn't that long ago. Wasn't that long ago, so there we go. Is that a light of your face behind you? It is a light. It is a light of my face behind me. So it's BK Ultimate who comes in the chat. I work with him in real life and he 3D prints stuff. And he made me that. And he also made the one for Hook as well. I approve of this, Leork. You're a handsome man-child and your puns make me giggle. The Hook, I'm jealous of how comfortable you are wearing kids' clothes on stream. And you should be proud of yourself. Yes, we are going to pin that comment because that, I think, encapsulates everything that we're about. I'd love to get my nose done, however, I don't think it would suit it. It's super comfortable, just get it done. I have never got a piercing, so I can't comment on it. One big manly group hug. I hated my parents taking the phone off me as a teen. Now, could you please take it off? Yes, we will take everybody's phones, we'll put them in the box, and everyone shall have an app. Do you think Transformers love them automated car washers? I think that's more of a sex thing, Teddy, when it comes to Transformers. Imagine a human equivalent, just a brothel. And now I'm proud that you have a family of people who are much funnier than you. So what the context of that is me and Hook and Annihilator went to Waffle's wedding there in April, and his wife is an absolute delight. She is hilarious. Very, very funny. And the joke at the time was, oh my god, Waffles is really funny. Waffles' wife is even funnier. And Hook loves to bring it up. Anyone else feel heavily targeted by ads for e-readers? No. I'm still getting Viagra ads. Sweet. They're trying to get a rise out of you. Queen V! Hello, good morrow. Queen V is in the future. She lives in Australia. She knows what's happening tomorrow, and if you want the winning lottery numbers, ask her. This convo can't be helped then. It cannot. Follow Queen V. Queen V's streams really early in the morning, playing through Golden Sun at the moment, and she's fucking loving it. It's okay, they'll grow on you eventually. It's Friday tomorrow. Oh my! What will tomorrow bring? What's the weather like? Different brands, a different department can be your competition. This is true. Queen V, Golden Sun, Poggers, yes. Means the weekend. Oh, I'm already counting this is the weekend. The Sucker Gods. Here's my retort. There's Hook. I'm not even joking, one of them is called it. And they're going to form Devastator after the fact, aren't they? And then, I'm assuming that they fight Megatron at some point, but it hasn't happened yet, so I don't know. Long haul. I need a little bit of help. No, I would like yes for help. Yes for help, please. Flipping cold here? No way, it's warm as fuck here. The tiny ones are the size of a phone. Are they any good? Not gonna lie, I'm tempted tempted to get me to read more. Buy some physical books. Buy some actual paper books. Get that paper feel in your fingers. What is Poggers? Please enlighten me. The game. The game. I remember Pogs, the wee discs, and you used to throw them down. That's what I'm assuming that is. I'm a Pogger. No, you're not a Pogger. Games are so handy. Battery lasts ages. What is Poggers? That's what I assume Poggers is. It's Pogs. We used to play them at school when we were kids. There were wee slammers, and everybody had discs, and then you used to play your mates for their Pogs. And then Slammer Whammers was another one. I know this because I'm cool. I know what all the cool kids are at. Let's go. I'm with you. That's exactly what I think when I see Poggers. Poggers, Slammer Whammers, and Tamagotchis. I did see someone... Look, he's shitting all over the place. You dirty bastard. I did see something not that long ago as well, which is quite funny, saying in the 90s we all played the Tamagotchis, which was an electronic device that used to keep the little stupid animals alive. Now we all have smartwatches and we're the stupid animals we're trying to keep alive. Look at Furbies. Ah, Furbies, yes. Boom! Got you in the ass. Here is my retort. Don't you be unretorting my retort, you son of a bitch. Yows. Is he the last one? Have we got the rest of them? No, we still got one more.
Never stood a chance.
Future is now, old man. It is. No, they've merged into Devastator. Right, okay. Oh, in the GBA, I had one of those as a kid. Poggers equals slang. It means cool. No. I don't know. Look, you're going to have to Google this shit. We're going to have some sort of AI that tells us what the cool kids mean. And with you, that's exactly what you think. So if it means cool, then I like Golden Sun. My ship. My ship's flying out. Whee! Don't forget Furbies. Oh my god, so true. And I had to clean up. I had to clean up my own poop. I know, it's exactly true. Furbies are amazing. I punched my mid-sleep once. It would shut the fuck up. Furbies spontaneously making noises is terrifying. We had them as kids, my sister as well. Just kept stealing them. I remember I got a thing where you could go through magazines and get bits of paper and make your own pogs, but they were shite. Yeah, two. One was quiet and the other one was loud as fuck. I had no idea whether there was a difference. One of them was Gizmo and the other one was the Spike. There was a stripe. You wet Furbies. Abuse! Yeah, I know. You wet them and they breed, and then if you feed them after midnight, they turn evil. You son of a bitch. Oh, he's in the air. Fucker. Or get him in the dick. Shoot him in the dick. Alright, where we going? Where we going? Here. Got him. That's Gremlin's pet. Same thing. Same thing. Gremlins are Furbies. They come alive when they try and eat you. And they fight Hulk Hogan. None but good slammers. I know, and some of the slammers were really, really good quality as well. Oh, fall, big lad, fall. Remember coins? I remember coins. Oh, shit.
This could be trouble.
Fucking Menasor and Devastator. Shit. Thank God we have all of the lads here. This seems very unfair. I'm sorry, this is very unfair. We're going to take that. Power Booster, we're going to increase my damage, and Hard Coat, we're going to increase my defense. Fucking shit. Yeah, you boys have pushed me. He's have pushed me. You made this happen. I feel like I've wasted my special move. Oh fuck, right, I'm about to die again. Repair kit. And the problem is, if I do die, none of this stuff comes back. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. Fuck! Right, okay. Oh, I don't have weapon energy? Shit. I might have to go with these again. But don't listen. They're like Gil! You're a mean brother, Hook. You're a mean brother! It's done. I also spread her off the bed and broke her foot. Oh, speared her off the bed. Then begged for her not to tell her parents. After she broke her foot, my god, man. Oh my god. Gift of the Gab, that's a Hellsman stream. Yep, it's true. It's true. That's why he hasn't been locked up. He talked his way out of it. During a POG era in my primary school, was picked up the film in Advert for a POG type called Stick'ems. This good magnetic attached monster head that attached to the slammer, but you won by picking up the metal POGs. Right, okay. I was on the advert. I saw it once and cannot find any evidence of the toy existing. I've never heard of it, but we'll all go look for that advert now, Christina. Ah, Gil, got it. So basically, shit talker. Yes, he is. Oh fuck! I'm about to die. Right, that's one down. I'm hoping my energy levels are still high enough to take down the second one. Fucker! He got me before I could do my move! Yes! Yes, I will! I will! I will! I will! Oh, thank you! Oh, that was so close. I didn't even know I had one of them. That's a problem. You can't buy items in this. They just kind of show up. Get his ankle. Get his heel. Sucker! Devastator. Minosaur. Destroy. Man's gifted at it. He is. He talks his way out of fucking everything.
Megatron headed for the surface, and he took the Ferrotaxes with him.
Then that is where we go. Autobots, roll out.
Doom, 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 doom. Whew. Great chat, Leo. Great stream. I'm going to head to bed. Knackered, night all. Teddy, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you for being an absolute pleasure. You go and enjoy your night. And get some sleep. You enjoy your weekend as well, Teddy.
Imagine what we could have accomplished. But you never had the manifolds to do what needed.
The manifolds! Oh!
Manifolds to stand up for those who cannot stand.
Manifolds are testicles.
Give me the Ferrotaxis. We will use it to bring our culture and our history back to Cybertron, where it belongs. You have made a great discovery. Let us use it wisely.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff, Optimus.
Oh, here we go. I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
If you want it, you'll have to take me down to get it.
Oh, he is a dodgy boy. As in, he dodges quite well. I'm assuming he has like 28 phases though, because it's Megatron. I don't think I'm beating him this time round. Whoa. Let's go. Yeah, you got me. You got me! We'll try maybe some items.
If you want it,
If you want it, Megatron, you're gonna have to get it.
That take me down to get it.
Megatron. Ah! Fucking. Hear you. He kinda has everybody's attack. There we go, got a wee bit of a combo on him. Still, I have... Oh, I had a health and... Or not health, but a defense and attack booster on. He's still with me.
If you want it, you'll have to take me down.
I am probably just a bit learn him. Let's go. Oh no! Megatron. You son of a bitch. I am really not doing much damage to him as well, that's another thing. I'm hoping he maybe goes down to a second phase about halfway through. And... oh fuck. I didn't even know how high I dodged that one. And if he goes down to that second phase, it might start me off there then next time. I don't know what that gold thing is. I don't know if it's like invincibility frames on him or... I can see health. Yes! Fucking Megatron. He also dropped the thing on the ground, the MacGuffin, the thing that we're fighting him for. MacGuffin. Well, at least that still does damage. Unfortunately, so does his. Nope, it looks like it's just going to be one health bar. Fuck. Fuck. Right, okay. Any update on what we need to do to get your Ada Wong face? Haha! You wish. I got better things to do tonight than die. Except that I'm probably going to die quite a bit.
Hey, watch the paint!
There's no help. There's no help! I thought there was green over there. Ooh, this might be help. It was not. Why throw away your life so reckless? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. Boom. I think what I'm going to do is I think I have one more of them cells for doing extra damage. And once I build up my special, I'm going to get him on that. Oh, fuck, where did I go? Going for attack and just kept going. Sorry, chat, I will get you another. little second. No, I'll actually pause. I'll pause and catch up. Good night, buddy. Catch you in your dreams. Good night. Oh, I was caught up. Oh, go me. He says as he dies. Ooh. Right, I'll go on it now with my thing. I'll go in with my thing. Ooh, that's a new move. Where'd that come out of? You lack even scourge. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can use this. Oh, I don't have it. I just have the hard coat. Ooh. Let's just go for the hard coat then. Alright, okay. Die! Oh, right in the arse. Let's go. Oh shit, right, okay. I need help. Stop! Stop it. I need help. Tree help. Tree help! Trees help. They bring me help. Die, Megatron! Fuck! No! Doesn't work. Shit! No! I think it was the best I've done with him so far. I think I went through a pretty bad phase there, getting caught up in the fire things. Sometimes the camera angles are the worst part of this as well, where you can't even see what he's looking to do. Because you're kind of stuck in the floor. Oh, fuck, right, okay. Ooh, fuck, right, okay. And the whole thing killed me. It killed me and I died. Right, okay, that's a good start. Ooh, very good start. Boom! Nope, he moved. He fucking dodged. Unfair. Unfair dismissal. Red card. Red card. Red card. He keeps doing that. And I don't like the fact that he's allowed to dodge me. I dodge him. He doesn't dodge me. It's illegal. It's illegal! The reason I try and pop this as early as possible is because it can recharge again in the battle, so you're better off getting 2 in the course of a fight than coming in butt clutch than just 1. Foolish Autobots, you lack even Prime's courage. I also love the fact that there's... Oh, where'd that come out? Where did that come out? Sideswipe also has a special move, which I never use. It's like a kind of one of them. And I never use it. I need help. I need help. That is help. That is help. Do you have help? I fucked up. Is there help? Anybody help? No. No. Yeah, you got me. You got me good. Not true. I am going to see if there's any upgrades I can just fire on before I take them on again. I don't like the fact I can't buy health. That's just all the stuff I unlocked. Acquire or sell new moves, weapons. Oh, the... are you taking the fucking bus? There was an item store the entire time? No! No! Fuck away off! There was an item store the entire time? Been accidentally playing this game in hard mode. Oh, fuck away off. I'm not going to need any of that. Oh my fucking goodness. I want item scanners. They can go fuck off as well. Credit scanners? No. XP scanners? No. I'm going to go all in on health. Oh my sweet and gentle Betsy. I did not know they existed. And auto repairs as well. I can buy one of those. I can buy a power booster. I can buy a hard coat. Now I can buy shitloads of... Well, shitloads 5 of them and one of these. So you've gotten this far without items? Yeah, I didn't know there was a shop. Oh my god. Fucking Megatron! Now, this is how she wears it. I can't believe that. I struggled through some bosses, learning their moves, Dark Souls in it, because I'm like, I can't buy any health items. They don't exist. And I've been relying on everything I've picked up. And see if I beat him now without actually needing any health. Oh my fucking god. Why am I doing so well against him? He'll change that now though. He'll fix me. He'll fix me. He'll put me in my place. He'll have a phase 2 or something. I can't fucking believe that.
Never stood a chance.
Fucking hell.
It's over.
Fucking hell. Heading off the bed, Sarah, not a problem. Thor needs a walk. Not a worry. Take care, Sarah. Enjoy. Night night, Sarah. Thank you for calling in again. I appreciate you, buddy. Megatron can just fly. Oh my fucking god. I don't believe that. I could have been buying items the whole way through that game.
Oh, hello, Papa. I was just about to want it.
Tomahawk, what's happening?
I do not like it. You've made
They
me
are
to
fighting.
look like the silly cows, and I am not a silly cow. I am a strong and agile German shepherd. Kinda do
my cool. Also, I'm Optimus now. My unleveled up Optimus Prime. That's how it goes. We're fighting in space! Space battles. I've beaten him once. I should be able to beat him a second time. Freedom is the freedom is the right of all sentient. Megatron. We're going to go for the full repair, and I am going to say, oh, that's it. Let's just repair kits at this point. Right, okay. Raises Fire Blast. Pocket will take all of the tablets. We're just in space, just chugging down tablets. Oh, by the way, how'd your speedrun go? I didn't beat my personal best. I ended up getting... instead of... My personal best is 1 hour 16. I got 1 hour 18. There was a lot of mistakes made, but I was really happy with it. What are we standing on? This is not how gravity works.
I will restore Cybertron and retake the galaxy. That ambition will be your end.
Yes, one shall stand, one shall fall.
You are only destroying the Earth.
Oh, there he goes. We're hugging it out. It's unbelievable. Oh, fuck, I wasn't pressing the button. Oh, yes! That's how it's done. That's how it's done. What were you running? I do, on a Wednesday night, I do Resident Evil 2 Remake speedruns. And I've got down to 1 hour 16 for the Leon A campaign. Oh, fucking hell. Lamush, go walk your dog.
It will not let me shut down
Bastard.
the Insecticons. Megatron, what have you done?
One last fail-safe. In order to
I'm going
shut
now.
down the Ferrotaxis,
I did that tell you. Oh, did you? Oh, fair play. Fair play.
you must destroy it. You hold the fate of Cybertron in your hands, Prime.
You are correct, Megatron. And I have the courage to make the right decision.
I will destroy it. Because I block. For sure. I think Mike mentioned it the other day. It's Mike's fault. He's the one talking me into doing the speedrun, so I blame him. I did the speedrun of The Last of Us, and it was like 6 hours, but an absolute loot goblin. I felt like most of it, everything needs to be got. Everything needs to be got. RE2 Remake is a very short one, and there's a very, very optimized path through it.
Humans will decide their own fate.
Yes. Bring your gun with you. I don't know why you needed to let go of the gun.
Autobots, we have lived on Earth for decades, but I see now that we have not truly accepted Earth as our home, holding out some distant hope that we would return to a newly reforged Cybertron. And maybe one day that will happen. But we cannot continue to live in between worlds. From this day forward, we are no longer Cybertronians who are stranded on another world. Now, we are a part of Earth. And we must treat Earth as though we were forged here. And we must protect our home, no matter the cost.
You got the touch.
How are you recovering, Optimus?
I will live, thank you. Fortunately.
Oh, he looks well. He looks well. I met Peter Cullen. No way, that would be a fucking dream. The man seems lovely.
It's not without risks.
I was thinking about what I
He's a brave old man too, look.
The prophecy on the Proud Star. That there is a way to end the war.
I was like 9. Amazing. What was he like? Was he sound? Was he lovely?
Optimus. That's our job.
There's lads. Superion and Defensor.
You don't have to do this alone.
To finally rid Earth of the Decepticons. This might just be the price I have to pay.
You completed Transformers Devastation. I fucking love that. Oh. Yes. It sounds like an AA song, doesn't it? Yes. Ah, digging that. That's good. Okay. I'm liking that. I've never finished this game. I played it and got through the first few levels, and for whatever reason, probably the lack of a shop is the reason I stopped. I cannot believe that I got to the very, very last boss to find out that there was a shop I could buy health the entire time. I barely remember this. Was a thing in London. A small group of us went to go meet him, and he was basically just saying a couple of things and said, "Till all are one." And then waved and left. Not gonna lie, 9-year-old me didn't know who he was until the voice. Ah, right, okay. That would have been so cool, though. Just this mustached man. Eeyore. Actually, there's the lad. There's himself. Sideswipe. This is like, do you ever remember the posters and advertisements for Transformers back in the day where it just was this massive battle and you would just go through and you could just pick the Transformers and look to your favorite ones, and they just had them in this amazing like diorama on a poster, kind of like this, yeah. Oh, I enjoyed that. Activision, you done well with this one, and then you lost the license for it, so we didn't even get to see anything else after the fact. Oh, secret scene. What scene? That scene. They had that. They did. It was class. It was so good. It was just to show off the other ones that you could buy. And what's this? This is probably setting up for a sequel. They never did. Nemesis Prime. There we go. Fusion cannon. Till all are one. It popped both there and on the OBS screen as well. Kind of weird. There we go. Jesus, Starscream, calm yourself down, kiddo. Oh. That was good. I enjoyed that. That was good crack. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Everybody who came on tonight. Thank you for the raids as well. Thank you for the butts and the subs. Everybody, he's came on and he's made my night actually just chatting, and we covered some really cool topics as well, which I liked. But I'll be back on Saturday. I think what I'm thinking I might start Resident Evil 7 on Saturday. Back to horror, because this was a good palate cleanser, I thought. Thank you for living my childhood. Thank you for coming on. No bother. Thank you for chatting and talking about Transformers with me. And the fact that you met Peter Collins, well, means you're more of a fan than I am. Oh, Tom Hawk relinquished the title. What? He's putting the back out to the people. So on Saturday night, I think it's going to be Resident Evil 7. I'll update the schedule if it changes at all. Thank you, Lyric, for keeping me company while I do some work. Chrissy, Tina, thank you very much. Not a problem. Went the whole stream and nobody redeemed it. I know, nobody challenged you for it. I also realized as well I didn't take a break the entire stream. I need to start doing that a wee bit more. So what we're going to do now is we're going to raid out. And let's see, who do we have that's live at the moment? I think we're going to raid our buddy May. May's a really good buddy we met recently. She raided him when we were playing Resident Evil 2. She is playing a bit of Dead by Daylight at the moment. So we're going to call in on her. She's very high energy, but absolutely lovely. A really, absolute dote of a person. So if he could do me a massive favor And even if you call in for just a wee second and say hello, it would be much appreciated. And what we're going to do is I am going to first start my raid up, and then I'm going to pop in a wee raid message. After the stream, Leo, not a problem. No, never. GG's, thanks for the stream. These are absolute legends. Thank you so much. So we're going to see as well if you beat the boss. So it's going to pop. Did you check it enough to beat it tonight? No, the boss still lives. But check in on Saturday, level up, and we'll give it another go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start this raid over the May. I'm going to hang out for a bit, but if you could do me a big favor and just say hello dear, it'd be much appreciated. Nope. No, we're not. The target channel has disabled raids. There we go. I don't know why she's done that. I must have said her. It must be a bit of a mistake, but what we're going to do instead is Ian is still alive. He is playing some Final Fantasy 11. Ian is a lovely, lovely man. And if you could say hello to him and pass along a little love and a womp, 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 that would be much appreciated. And I will see you folks on Saturday. Thank you again, you fucking legends.